And we are recording. This is Canvas Collaborations. Coralie, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, John. I'm going to share my screen now, and we're going to jump right into Canvas. And as John mentioned, this session is all about collaborations and the different spaces that can be used in Canvas to facilitate collaborations. We'll talk a little bit about each of those tools, maybe point out the grading options that are available for group work in Canvas, and try to answer any questions that you might have about the various tools and their options. And so collaborations is kind of an important topic because, you know, students really need that student-to-student interaction in addition to the interaction they're getting with you as the instructor. It helps them feel like they're in a course and they're not in this online tutorial taking a one-on-one independent study course. And Canvas really has a bunch of built-in tools that can be used to facilitate the online collaborations and group work that you might want to use in your course. First things first, everyone has a Canvas account. So it's really easy to set up collaborations in Canvas because you don't have to worry about students having to sign up for an account with a third-party product and making sure IDs and passwords are working. Canvas now integrates very easily with Google Drive, Google products. You might have noticed over the summer the announcement that we had enabled that LTI at the institution level in Canvas, which allows you now to set up collaborations with Google Docs, Google Sheets, and Google Slides. In the past, we were limited to just Google Docs. It allows for better group communication. There's no need to maintain email distribution lists to communicate with students when they're in groups and working on group work. That's all built in very easily in Canvas. And they can log in anywhere, anytime, and access the resources and setup that's available within the Canvas course site. And so when we talk about the first tool that you can use to facilitate collaborations, it's one that's kind of overlooked in Canvas, and that's Pages. And so Pages is where you can add content or resources that are part of your course, but they don't necessarily belong to an assignment, or it's something that you might want to refer to in multiple places or multiple assignments. And you can also use it as a collaboration tool. So if you're thinking about setting up something like a class wiki where students are adding to this living document as the course progresses, Pages is a very simple way to get that set up and get that done. To do that in Canvas, you want to look for the Pages link in your course menu, and I'm going to click Pages. I'm also going to click View All Pages so that it gives me a list of all the pages that I've created in this particular course. To create a brand new page, you're going to again look for the Add button that's at the top right of the page. And just like anything else in Canvas, you're going to want to give it a title. So maybe this is a page for students to share project topics for a project that maybe they're completing this semester. You can add content here, give students instructions for how to add to this document. And then what you do to make this a collaborative page, because the default is when you create a page in Canvas, you're the only one who can edit that page. So to make this a page that students can edit and students can add to, down at the bottom, you're going to look for the drop down where it's set to only teachers, and you're going to click the arrow and you're going to specify either teachers and students. You might also want to select the checkbox to notify users that this content has changed, so it will trigger a notification letting students know that this page exists and it's open and it's available to be edited. And then to make it available to students, just like any other piece of content you're creating in Canvas, you want to make sure you click not just the Save button, but you want to click the Save and Publish button. So now, when you're editing a page in Canvas, as the instructor, you simply find the page and click Edit. But now that I've enabled that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a new share. And I am going to come to Firefox, and I'm going to come in as a student. And I'm going to go into that course, and I'm going to go into pages. And I'm going to go to final project topic. You'll notice I'm in as a student, but I do have that edit button available to me at the top right. So as a student, I can now go in and make changes to the document as needed. And I can hit save, and my save is changed. And so all students would be able to come into this page and add to it following the instructions that you've provided. I'm going to come out and go back in as the instructor. And I'm going to go to pages, view all, and I'm going to go to that final project topic. And there's the change that was made by the student account. It is now visible to me. I can view the page history. So if I click that button at the far right with the 3 dots, I can choose view page history. And I have a revision history that I can see when it was changed and by who it was changed. So it keeps track of the changes that have been made to this page. So it really is a very simple way to allow for collaborations within Canvas without having to use any third-party tools, just using what's available within the Canvas course. Full disclosure, it's not tied to the gradebook. So if you are interested in grading student participation in this page, you would need to create an assignment for this particular final project topic work, and you would be manually adding the grade to the gradebook for work that's been completed here. Any questions about pages and the setup and what we just walked through? John, anything? Okay.
Wait, sorry, Quayle?
Sure.
Could I, you said you went out and you came in again through Firefox.
Yes.
Is there, you wouldn't come in again through Chrome or something?
I'm using 2 different browsers so that I'm logged in as the instructor in one browser and I'm logged in as the student in the other. So you can use the same browser. I'm just using 2 different so that I can demonstrate from both perspectives.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So the second tool that we'll talk about is collaborations. And collaborations in Canvas allows you to give students a place where they can collaborate with each other on a piece of content. And that could be a Google Doc, a Google Slide, or a Google Sheet. It allows you to review the work that's gone on there because you always have access to the collaborations that you're creating. And it allows students to do this very easily, again, without having to sign up for a separate account for a third-party product, because all users at Rider have a Google account that they would be able to use to access this. Again, you're going to look for collaborations in your course menu on the left-hand side of your screen. And once you find that link, you're going to click it. You want to select Google Drive from the Start a New Collaboration section, that Collaborate Using drop-down list. You might see Google Docs listed. If you do, simply click the arrow and select Google Drive so that it will give you access to the additional options of sheets and slides. From the Kind drop-down list, you want to specify, is this a Google Doc students are going to be working on together? Is it a spreadsheet they need to create, or is it a presentation that they're working on? And once you've selected the type of collaboration that they're going to be working on, you want to give the collaboration a name. So I'll select document and I'll just call it class notes. And so because this is something that I want the whole class to be able to work on, I'm simply going to, in my people list, and what you'll see in your people list are all of the students who are registered for your particular course section. I'm simply going to click on the student names from the people list to add them to the collaboration. Once their names have been moved to the right side of this selection area, I'm simply going to click Submit. And what it will do is it creates the Google Doc. It gives it the title that I've specified, and it shares it with the students that I've selected from that list. And so this works the way any other document that you're building with Google Docs works. Everybody can add to it. You have access to a history. Students are able to comment and ask questions. You're able to review and provide feedback. And it just gives them a space where they can collaboratively work on their own time and their own schedule to complete assignments that you might be requiring them to do in a group. So again, this can be used for group projects or papers. You can use this so that they can create shared notes at the end of a lecture. Anything that you can think of that they would be working on as a collaborative document. Maybe there's data that they're collecting in a spreadsheet, or a presentation that they've got to produce at the end of the semester for a project they've been working on. If I head back to collaborations, you'll see that the current collaboration is displayed at the top of the page. This is how both you and your students will be able to access the collaboration. Simply coming in, clicking the link for collaborations, and then clicking the title will open up the Google Doc, the Google Slide, or the Google Sheets to allow students to work and collaborate in that area. If you need to create another collaboration, you're simply going to click that Start a New Collaboration button. And then again, you're going to select Google Drive to give you the options. Maybe this time it's a presentation. And then we're just going to, again, select the users. So if instead of the whole class, we just want a subset of students to be added, you simply click on just those students that you want to add to this particular collaboration. And again, when you're finished, you click Submit. Again, the Google LTI authorizes you, and it creates the presentation in the Google Drive area and shares it with the students who were selected when you created that collaboration. So again, I'll have access to both collaborations that were created. Students will only see here the collaborations that they have been assigned to. Any questions about what you see here? Okay. If you need to edit a collaboration, if you left a student off by accident and you need to go in and add them to this collaboration, you'll notice as you run your mouse over the existing collaborations, in the top right corner, you'll see two icons appear. Yeah. The pencil icon allows you to edit the collaboration. The delete allows you to delete the collaboration. Full disclosure, it deletes it from Canvas, not from Google Drive. So if students can access via the Google Drive link, they can still get to that document. So if you really want to delete a collaboration and completely remove the document or the sheet or the slides, it also will need to be removed separately from your Google Drive area. To edit, I'm going to click that pencil icon, and you'll see I accidentally left this student off. So again, if I just click that remaining student, it adds that student to the list. And once I hit submit, it's updated, and that student will now have access. Any questions about that or collaborations in general?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Okay, that note that said you need to log in, and then you went over it real quick, like you jumped over that. What do you mean? What did that mean? You need to log in.
The authorization that you see for Google LTI, that's being done automatically. So the very first time you click the Google Drive link that you'll see in your course menu, it'll ask you to authorize. And once you do that, it'll do the authorization automatically when you're creating those collaborations.
How do you authorize?
So you would click Google Drive and it would prompt you to authorize, and you would say it's okay to link your Writer Google account to the Canvas LTI, and you would just hit authorize, and it would behind the scenes do what needs to be done to authorize the account.
Fabulous. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay.
And Quayle,
Sure.
that was a PowerPoint presentation done by a number of students, hypothetically, for under presentation.
It could be a presentation. It could be a document, just a plain document, or it can be a spreadsheet.
Right. No. But I mean, I've done that presentation the hard way rather than this. This is the easy.
Correct. This is new, and this is what's been available, I guess, since midsummer.
Oh, okay. Okay. So it wasn't something I missed.
No.
Right.
Okay. So the next thing we're going to talk about is embedding, because I mentioned this Google LTI that gives us the extended options for collaborations, but it also allows you to embed Google Docs and Google Sheets and Google Slides that you may have created in Google Drive, and it allows you to allow students to collaborate on those documents as well. So if you're not going to do it using the collaborations route, maybe you want to embed a spreadsheet in a page and allow students to be able to go in and edit that from that page, and you'd add that to your modules area. So again, I'm just going to view all pages. I'm going to create a new page, give it a title, and because Google is now integrated for use, you'll notice that when I click this external tool icon in my rich content editor toolbar, it looks like a V. Google Drive is listed as an option now. When you select a Google Drive, what it gives you access to is your Google Drive folder, and you could simply navigate to the sample. You say, I want to embed this particular sheet, and I can click embed. And you'll notice that the spreadsheet now appears within the page. And again, I can do a save and publish. And then if I head to my modules area, I can add this page to my module. And students are able, as long as that module is published, to access this page, view the data that's in it, as well as be able to update if needed. So it gives you another quick way that you can allow students to collaborate with content that they may need access to for the course. And so we embedded this in a page, but you can embed in a discussion as well. So if there's something that students need to be able to look at or review to answer questions that you might want them to post their responses in a discussion, you can embed Google content there as well. You can embed in an assignment as well. So any place where you have access to the rich content editor, you can use the embed option to allow students to have access to that Google content right within the Canvas environment very easily. Any questions about that? Okay, so now what we're going to talk about are Canvas groups. And so if you're interested in facilitating online group work, you're going to want to use this group feature that's available to you in Canvas. And when you think of groups like a smaller version of your course, and it can be used to let students work on group projects and assignments. When you create a group, you give students access to a group site where they have access to a discussion board that is private just to group members. They can create collaborations on their own within that group site. They can upload and share files with each other within that group site, as well as post announcement and message each other in that area. So it gives them a private space where they can collaborate on their own time as needed to complete assignments that you might have assigned to them. So when you're doing this, you want to go ahead and head over to your people area. This is where the groups process begins, because you want to actually build the groups that are going to be used for the different collaborative assignments. And so we're going to head over to people. When you're in your people area, the first tab that you see is this Everyone tab. And so that's where you see all of the students who are listed and registered for your course. To begin creating groups, you want to look for the Add Group Set button, which is at the very top right of the people page. And when you click that Group Set button, Canvas wants to know, what do you want to call this group set? So maybe we're using this particular group set for a final project that they've got to create. And so I'm going to call it Final Project. And then you have a couple of options. Do you want to allow students to sign themselves up for a group? If you do, then you would select the Allow Self Sign Up. But if you want to have a little bit more control over who is in what group, then you're going to use the options that are in the group structure area. And so you can either tell Canvas to automatically split the students into a predetermined number of groups, or you can choose to create the groups manually. If you select split students automatically, you need to tell Canvas how many groups. So I'm going to say split them into 2 groups. And then you have some options. I'm going to ignore those for now and just click Save. And so what Canvas did was it created the group set Final Project. It automatically assigned the students who are in my course roster into 2 groups, Final Project 1 and Final Project 2. If I click the arrow that is displayed to the left of each group title, it expands to show me the students who have been assigned to that particular group. At this point, if I'm happy with what was done, I can leave it set. But if I want to swap and I want to say, no, this student should go here, and let's move this student up here, you do have the ability to modify the group assignments manually if you have that need. Any questions, first of all, about creating a group? I'm going to do that one more time, but this time what I'm going to do is demonstrate the manual process. So again, I'm going to create a group set. Maybe this one is going to be used specifically for discussions throughout the semester, and I'm going to create the group manually. And then I'm going to click Save. What we see here is a little different from what we saw last time. The students are still in the unassigned list on the left-hand side, and there are no groups created. When you create groups manually, you need to use the Add Group button to create the number of groups you want. So maybe this is going to be the blue team. And then maybe I'm going to have a green team. So you're just going to create the number of teams or groups that you want to see listed here. Okay. And then the last step is that you need to manually assign the students. And you do that by clicking on the student here in this unassigned list and then dragging them over to the group you want them to belong to until you're done. Okay. Again, if I click the arrow to the left of each group name, I can expand it to show me the students who have been assigned. And if I want to adjust, I can just drag and drop to make those adjustments. Any questions about creating the groups? Okay, so to the right of each group, you'll see the option that I can click to access the options. I can delete a group, I can edit a group, and I can also visit the group homepage. If I do that, I can actually visit each of the group's individual group sites. And as I mentioned, when you add students to a group, it gives them this private area where they have access to announcements. They can create pages and build content. They can use discussions to communicate back and forth. They can upload and share files. They have access to collaboration. So if they want to set up their own collaborations as a Google Doc or a presentation or a spreadsheet, they can. And there's also a link here to conferences. Conferences is the live tool in Canvas that allows them to interact with each other in real time, and they can share camera and actually talk and share screen and share files in that way in real time. So if they want to meet to discuss something related to their project and not exchange a bunch of emails, they can use conferences very quickly to set it up right here within the Canvas environment and meet in that way. So you're not required to set up the conference, you're not required to set up the collaboration. They have control to do that here within their individual group site. But you as the instructor can always visit these group sites and review the activity that's going on and provide feedback and oversight as needed. Okay, any questions about setting up the groups in the people area or how to manage those groups once they've been created? Anything, John?
Quayle, I have a question, if I
Okay.
may.
Sure.
Can they record their live sessions, and can the instructor access the recordings? Or
So
you
they
can
can
only get it if you turn up while they're doing it?
record the live sessions. The only problem with recording conferences is that they're only available for a limited time, those recordings. So if this is something that you want to have access to throughout the semester to go back and review, then I would suggest that they use Zoom instead for those recordings. But if a recording does not need to be available past that 2-week period, or recordings are not available at all, conferences will work just fine. But yeah, if that recording needs to be available after that 2-week time period, then we would suggest they use Zoom instead.
Okay. And we can access them for that 2 weeks?
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else, John? I thought I cut you off.
No, you're fine.
Okay. So once you've created these groups, in addition to having that group site where they can work on their own and use those tools to collaborate, share files, you can also now create several different types of group assignments and use those groups that you've created. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to head over to assignments, and I'm going to create a new assignment. And I'm just going to call this group presentation. So just like with all assignments, you provide your instructions in the text area at the top. You have your settings, how many points it's worth, what assignment group it belongs to, whether it's going to be displayed as points or percentage. Submission type, what kind of submission is this going to be? So I'm going to say online. And if you want to give students a place to submit from their Google Drive, if you've set up a collaboration for them to work on, or if they need to submit from a page where you've enabled students to be able to edit there, you want to make sure it's set to an online submission, and you want to select website URL if they're going to be submitting to you the page that they're working on in Canvas, so they can copy and paste the page URL there. If it is a Google Drive, you want to make sure it's set to file uploads so that they can upload to you directly from the Google Drive area if they've done that. And it also works for regular file uploads as well. But here is where the group option comes into play. So under group assignment, I'm going to click that checkbox on. And once I've designated that this is going to be a group assignment, so there's going to be one submission from each group of students, I now have to decide whether I want to assign grades individually or if I want to enter a single grade that every student is going to get for this particular assignment. If you want to provide individual scores to students, you need to turn that checkbox on. That will allow you to score each student individually. If you would prefer to assign a single score to that assignment that each student would automatically receive, you would just leave that checkbox off. And then you need to select the group set. So if you remember in that previous step, we created two. One was called group presentation, one was called discussions. So this particular group assignment should use the group presentation group set. If I had not yet created that group set, I could do that on the fly here by clicking the new group category button. I just find it easier to create the groups that I need ahead of time so that I can just select them from the drop down as I'm building the assignment. And then of course the last set of steps is when is it due? And then I'm going to go ahead and save and publish. So this will create a space where each group of students can come to submit their final product, their final presentation. Again, one student should upload for the group. If you have two students from the group uploading, you will see both submissions, but really you should direct students to designate one person as the person who is going to submit the final version of the project and assignment to this particular space in Canvas. Any questions about that? Okay. Really quickly, I am just going to show that from the student perspective. I'm going to go to assignments, and it's called group presentation here. And so I'm a student. When I click submit assignment, notice they are reminded, please keep in mind that this submission will count for everyone in your group presentation group. So it lets them know, come here and submit once. Because I've allowed the file upload, I can browse and select from my computer. I can also grab from Google Drive. And if it was a page that I'm submitting, I could also paste the website URL in as well. So for a file upload, I'm just going to browse. I'll just grab that. Students can submit multiple files, so if their group project requires them to submit a presentation as well as a document, they are able to add additional files as needed. They can also provide comments to let you know, here's the final version of our work. And again, because this is a group assignment, the reminder that all comments will be seen or sent to the whole group of students. So when I post a comment here, and when my instructor responds, those comments are seen by everybody in the group. I'm going to go ahead and submit. And it pretty much looks like any other submission screen for a student, a date and time stamp. It lets us know it was successfully submitted, and I have a link to the file that I have uploaded for the instructor. I'm going to switch back to the instructor perspective, head over to SpeedGrader. So when you're scoring the student work, the big difference that you'll notice is that it shows you at the top the number of groups, because this is a group assignment, so it's not showing you the number of students, so it's showing you that this is submission number 1 out of 3 groups who can submit, and the drop down gives you access to the group names. Okay, and once I score and hit submit, that score will automatically be recorded. Here's this particular assignment for the 3 students who were in that group. Okay, any questions about group assignments?
Corey, one question we had, and I don't remember the answer to this. Students can see the submission, all students in that group?
Yes.
I thought so.
Yes, they can see the submission as well as the comments, the grade, any feedback that's provided. All students in that group can see it.
Can they see it before you grade and give comments though?
Can they see the submission? Yes.
Okay.
So if I log in and I'm in that group, I can see the submission that was done by my team member.
That was the one thing I couldn't remember. Cool.
Okay, so the next thing that you can do when you've created groups is to create group discussions. And it really is a nice feature because if you have a class of more than 20, those discussions, especially full class discussions, can very quickly and very easily get overwhelming for all involved to try to read all of those posts and respond to certain posts. You can generate a lot of activity in a group discussion, in a discussion in a Canvas course. So if you use the group feature, it basically allows you to break your class into smaller discussion groups, which makes it more manageable for the students as well as more manageable for you. So if you have that group of 20 plus, you can create 4 groups of 5, which is a better ratio when you're dealing with having to read all of the postings and respond to all of the postings, especially from the student perspective. And so creating a group discussion is very similar to creating a group assignment. You start in your discussions tool and you use the add discussion button that's at the top right of your screen. You give it a title. Maybe this is case study number 1. Again, you can provide them instructions here. You have your options. I generally allow threaded for a graded discussion. I usually choose graded if it needs to be added into the grade book. And then just like with assignments, there is a group discussion option. When I enable that by clicking in that checkbox, again, Canvas just needs to know what group set I want to use. So when I click that arrow, I can select discussions because I did create a discussions group set. And then again, you fill in all of the remaining settings. And then I click Save and Publish. It will look a little bit differently if you're used to creating just regular whole class discussions, because I have access to certain links at the top of my discussion. It reminds me this is a group discussion and that each group is going to have its own private conversation for this particular topic. And then it gives you links to each of those private groups. So there are 3 that I created for this group set. And so the blue team will only see their responses and posts. The green team only theirs, and the red team. But I can see everybody's by jumping in and out of the individual group discussions by using the links available here. Again, as a student, I'm going to just switch to a new share really quickly. If I head over to discussions, I see case study number 1. And when I click it, it shows me that I'm looking at the blue team case study number 1, and I can reply. And if my classmates or my group mates have responded, I can view their responses and reply to those. So as a student, I only see the group discussion for my team, but as the instructor, I have access to all of the group discussions for each team. Any questions about that?
So could I ask,
Sure.
can you take, like, suppose you have in a couple different groups, you have 1 or 2 really perceptive comments that you want to share with the whole class.
Mm-hmm.
Can you select those and copy them out and share them, or is there another way?
So you would either be copying and pasting the text of them, or you could take a screenshot and share them that way. So if you wanted to kind of summarize, this particular case study, you could create a separate whole class, feedback on case study number 1. And that's where you could share the screenshots or share the text that you want to copy of the responses that you thought were really insightful and you wanted to share with the rest of the class.
And where would that go? Would that go, would that be in a module?
That could be in discussion. So you would just go back to discussions and you would add a new discussion, you know, case study number 1. Maybe we'd call it, you know, wrap up. And then it wouldn't be graded, you know, because this is just where you're going to share the responses that you thought were worthy for everybody to see, not just, you know, the folks who were in those teams. And once you save and publish, it's available to the whole class, and you would just compose your response, include the screenshot, copy and paste the text that you want to share, and it would be in the discussions area for everyone to see.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to head back to collaborations just because I want to point out that once you start creating group sets in Canvas and creating those groups, if I start a new collaboration, you'll notice I have now all of those teams, those groups that I created are also available within this collaborations area. So if you wanted to set up a place where the teams could collaborate on these documents outside of their individual group sites, so that it just makes it a little bit easier for you to access. You're not navigating into the individual group sites to view the collaboration. You can set it up here using the groups that were created in the people area. So in addition to selecting the students individually, once you've built those groups in that people area, you can also select from the groups tab when you're creating a collaboration. One other place where these groups will appear for you is the inbox in Canvas. So if you click that inbox link on the left-hand side of your screen, then what you're looking for is the compose a new message button. And that's going to be kind of at the top middle of your page. It looks like a pencil with a piece of paper. And if I select the course, when I click who I want to send it to by clicking that address book icon, student groups is an option that appears. And when I click groups, all of those groups that I created are available to me here as well. So I can very quickly select the blue team and send them a quick message. So it allows you to communicate with those groups very quickly right within the Canvas environment. So no need to build the distribution list to use for your rider email. You can send them those communications right from within Canvas using the inbox tool. Okay. And then I'm just going to go back into my course and just talk about, again, just the 2 synchronous collaboration options. All of the options that we've talked about before this are asynchronous. Students are logging on at their own time at different times, and they're responding to a discussion, or they're working in the collaboration. They're not necessarily all online at the same time. If students want to be able to collaborate in real time, they want to set up a time where they can meet with their group and hash out, you know, a schedule or who's doing what, or, you know, instead of exchanging a bunch of emails within Canvas, they can do it using that conferences link that's going to be in their individual group sites. Conferences will allow them to add a new conference. And once they start that conference, they can all join together within their group site and speak with each other in real time using their cameras and their microphones. While they do have access to Zoom within their Canvas course site, if you've enabled that Zoom link, they would only be able to access the Zoom sessions that you have scheduled. If students want to schedule and create their own Zoom sessions, they would prefer to use Zoom instead of conferences, then they would need to log directly on to writer.zoom.us to schedule those sessions there. So the Zoom sessions they'll be able to access within Canvas are the ones you've created. So if you wanted to help them out and save them that extra step, you could create a Zoom session for them and label it Blue Team Zoom so that it's available to them, but you'd have to start it if you want to be able to give them host capabilities. There's some workarounds we could probably try to see what we could get to work. But the best way really for them to create Zooms, for them to collaborate in real time, would be for them to log on to rider.zoom.us and schedule their own Zoom sessions with their teammates. Any questions about that? Okay, I have covered everything that was on my list. And so we can open it up to individual questions. If there's things that I didn't cover that you have questions about, or you have specific assignments that you'd like to, go ahead.
Before we start doing that, a couple of things I wanted to go back to. Sharon had a good question kind of early on. When we are copying entire courses over, and this can be true for all external tools. There was a question on when we're copying courses from one semester to the other, how are the things like collaborations getting copied? And kind of the short answer to that is it depends, asterisk. Whenever you are trying to copy LTI content over, it can be very funky with how it ends up getting created. So in the case of Canvas collaborations,
they're not created.
They're not going to get created. You might see the content pages there. However, so if you're doing something like how Crayley showed, putting the Google Sheet in a content page, that content page might get created, but the collaboration itself will not, nor will any of the group assignments, since your groups have now changed.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
So
yeah, that makes perfect sense.
It's a weird, it's a funky thing.
Yeah.
Anytime
So
there's an
things
LTI involved,
things like the group sets will be created, but the individual groups will not be. You'd have to recreate those and assign your new students to them, because it'll bring it over and you'll see the group set for discussion, but it will be blank. There will be no groups listed. You'd see the group set for final project, but again, no groups would be listed. So some of the structure comes over, but not all of it.
And if
sorry,
you embedded content into a page, what happens to that in a carryover?
If that page is still there, it should work. So if you have not removed it from Google Drive, but that is something that I would need to test, because I have not tested that since we enabled that LTI across the board.
Yeah, we would have to check. It depends. So you're creating from the collaboration or from?
No, so she means when I showed that, when I created that page.
With Excel?
Yeah, and I embedded the Excel there. Because it's not a collaboration, it's linked to that Google.
Would copy.
That should copy.
Yeah.
But I'm saying should, because we haven't verified.
Yeah. Better.
Yeah.
Let me go test that actually.
Okay.
And then one other question that we had was asking, almost kind of like a side note, how does peer review work? A Charade peer review is going to work essentially just how it sounds within Canvas. So you are, with any assignments, you can make it a peer review assignment. You can have Canvas automatically assign those peers if you wanted to, set the number of peers. You can have impact into grades and be able to see that. I would really say it depends on what you're trying to accomplish from it. I know other people have tried to use peer review for something more formal, like a dossier review. That is not what this tool is for. And Crayley's showing perfect.
Yeah, so when you're turning on peer reviews, that's kind of if you want to pair students up in small groups of 2 to give each other feedback on maybe draft submissions of work, you would enable the peer review checkbox for an assignment. You can also enable peer reviews for discussions. And then you would want to specify how you're going to assign that. Are you going to do it manually, or are you going to do it automatically? You also need to decide if the peer reviews are going to be anonymous. Do you want students' names to be attached to the peer review so that they know who they're reviewing and each person knows who reviewed them? Or do you want that to be anonymous? And then once you save and publish, for any assignment that you've enabled that peer review feature for, a link to the peer review area will appear. When you click that link, you have a list of students that would be your roster. And then you compare, okay, so this person is going to review that person. So you can manually go through the list. Or you also had that automatic option that you could have selected where it would randomly pair students together. But if you want control over which students are working together, you can run through the list and assign the folks as needed. If you needed to delete that student and give them another, you can. That little bell icon is just a notification reminder, so you can click that once you've assigned students to work with each other to trigger a notification that will go out to students to remind them that they've got a peer review that they need to complete. When they're doing peer reviews, they can see the uploaded submission from their partner in the peer review. If you've attached a rubric to the assignment, the students would be able to fill out the rubric for the submission. They also have a space where they can provide text-based feedback. They do not have access to the annotation tools, so they cannot annotate directly on the submission. Okay.
I have a question regarding this peer review. This is Shunzu speaking. I'm sorry, I don't know whether this would work for the oral assignment. Sometimes we give students oral assignments, for example, let them record their own, reading or something. And can this peer review work with that?
Yes. Yes, if they're doing the oral assignment, then you will have enabled them to be able to upload media, so an audio file. And so that file is available to the person they are partnered with, so they are able to play and listen, or if it's a video view as well.
Can they review orally, or this is
no, they would need to provide the written feedback.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else?
All right, with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. You guys will all receive the recording at the end.
And I'm going to turn